Alright, we're back. Let's play some more Ace Attorney. So, for those of you who missed the end of last stream, let's just say it went a lot longer than I was expecting. So, last time we were playing The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band. Jeez, why is my mic peaking so much? I don't know if I'm just talking louder or something, but... hang on. Okay, hopefully that fixes it. Anyway... last time we were playing The Adventure of the Unbreakable Speckled Band, and unlike everything in the main game, or in the trilogy that I'm familiar with, this has no courtroom section, which is what threw me off because I was just waiting for us to wind up in a courtroom. I was sure that at some point down the line we were going to be moved to a courtroom. And that was in my commentary as well. I was like, okay, we're going to implicate this girl and then we're going to wind up having to prove that she didn't actually do it. And it's just... it's so very involved. But it was a purely investigative section. Hang on, I'm sorry. I gotta fiddle with my settings here for a second, hang on. There we go. Okay, I think that's working now. I think it's shifted to drawing on my microphone instead of the mic on the webcam. So just give me a sec. So yeah, I was real confused by that one because it was all in the investigation. We never actually saw the courtroom. But we eventually finished, so let's pick up with the next episode. Oh, and I am going to put on a timer because I want to have a pretty solid deadline for when I start looking for a time to call the stream, so that doesn't happen.
Glancing over my
again.
records of the late last century, I am faced by the events of a certain bitter winter. A murder in a carriage as it sped through dense London fog in the dead of night. Though the victim and the perpetrator were the only ones inside, there were multiple witnesses to the crime itself. However, none could have imagined at the time that such a seemingly obvious case as this would end in such a horrendous manner. My friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, once said of the incident,
I believe that perhaps that case was indeed the prelude. The beginning of a long concerto that impressive Japanese student and I were to play together.
And here I was about to say that I thought maybe Herlock Sholmes was being the narrator there.
Amazing. Is this really just a railway station?
Railway station or not, I've never seen such an enormous building before.
And look at all the steam locomotives. This country is incredible.
I feel like I'm dreaming.
So this is the capital of Great Britain.
So, where to?
Oh, hello.
Climb aboard. I'll take you wherever you want to go.
In that case, the Supreme Court in Whitehall, if you wouldn't mind.
My pleasure. I suppose you're visiting students from abroad, eh?
Yes.
Thought so. Well then, I hope you enjoy your stay. And welcome to the centre of the world, Great Britain's mighty capital, London.
February 18th, 9:21 a.m. British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. Somehow, I can't imagine that having a giant clock in the room would actually make for a good office. I feel like that's going to be loud at all hours of the day. The ceaseless ticking would drive you insane. What an incredible place. It's so imposing. It's almost suffocating. This place is breathtaking. It looks like a fortress. There are some stone buildings like this in Japan now, of course, but they've only been built in the few short decades since we opened our borders to the outside world. An authentic example like this has quite a different impact, wouldn't you agree? Far cry from the wood and paper most of our buildings are constructed from. It's certainly unfamiliar. But I think there's more to the differences than just construction materials. What is this place again? This is the Lord Chief Justice's office, Naruhodo-san, in the Supreme Court of Great Britain. The Lord Chief Justice. We had instructions to report here at this time. If circumstances were different, we were supposed to let the Lord Chief Justice know that we had arrived from Japan. But Kazuma can't. No. So instead, we are here in a different capacity, as envoys to report the news of Kazuma-sama's death. Yes. And having delivered his or her message, an envoy's duty is done. So we'd have to return to Japan. If we want to remain here in Great Britain, I have to take Kazuma's place as the law student selected for the study tour. Yes, which means you need the requisite qualifications as a lawyer, which is what I've been studying for. Here in Great Britain, it's the Lord Chief Justice who appoints lawyers. So that's the second reason why we're here, to have you officially recognized as a lawyer. It's the only way that we'll be able to remain here in London. I hope I'm up to scratch. Good morning. Sorry for keeping you. Oh. I trust you aren't too exhausted. I trust you aren't too exhausted after your long voyage from Japan. It seems I'm 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 47 seconds late. My apologies. Oh, no, don't mention it. We're never happier than when we're standing around with nothing much to do. How fortunate. So, introductions. I am Mael Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of the British Empire. And I feel like a little mouse under an elephant's foot. Come on, Mr. Naruhodo, don't be a mouse. Oh, it's an honor to meet you, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, welcome to London, the capital of our glorious British Empire. Ah, yes, thank you. Now I'm going to look at the room. Look at these menacing metal giants facing each other across the room. I believe they're suits of armor. Oh, right. I thought maybe they were like the lion dogs we have in Japan guarding shrine gates. No, not at all. In fact, in Europe, suits of armor like these are always possessed by evil spirits. And they roam around in the middle of the night. Really? Is there nothing you don't know, Miss Suzuto? This book tells me everything I need to know about everything. If you're ever unsure, just ask. That feels like a really, really poor lifestyle choice. Considering that book is roughly 20% accurate, I would say. Just look at all the naughty books packed together on these shelves. They go from floor to ceiling. I don't know what he means by naughty there. And they're all books that you couldn't hope to come by in Japan. It's like a dream. Yes, a very bad dream. They're not all about British law either. There are books about the judicial systems of other Western nations. France, Germany, Spain, Holland? What about Russia? Why do you ask? I was wondering about asking the Lord Chief Justice how you say wardrobe in Russian. What do you think? I think perhaps it's a thought best abandoned. Is this some kind of clock? Actually, I think we might be inside some sort of giant clock. But those gears are larger than anything you'd find on a steam locomotive, even. It's eerie. Do you think clocks are some sort of hobby of his? The Lord Chief Justice, I mean. Well, boys do enjoy fiddling around with machines, don't they? I'm not sure you could fiddle with cogs that size, and I'm certain you couldn't call him a boy. Still, it's amazing how little noise the cogs make, considering how large they are. It's actually something quite soothing about their precise rhythm. This must be the Lord Chief Justice's desk. I believe it's made of marble. It looks more like an over-the-top tombstone that's toppled over to me. I think that's your fanciful imagination at work again, Mr. Naruhodo. Feels like everything that's normally made of wood and paper at home is made of bricks and stone here. I know, that's why this place feels so overbearing, I'm sure. I wonder why I have the option to turn here when it doesn't seem to be capturing anything extra. Oh, we no longer have our pin. These are the scales of justice. They're a symbol of the defense, aren't they? Yes, that's right. Scales are a symbol of fairness to show that all are treated equally in the eyes of the law. And they're a warning to those who enter the courtroom without an impartial mind. But if they're the mark of the defense, it would be more auspicious if they were weighing more heavily on the not guilty side, I think. Very impartial, I'm sure. The lawyer's name is embroidered on the inside here. Look. Kazuma Asogi. This was his band, of course. He had his heart set on this study tour in Great Britain. I'm sure he would have found the truth he longed for here. But he lost his life before he even had the chance to see the place. I have such a strong sense of his hopes and dreams when I look at this armband, though. Accept this item, issue a receipt, examine it thoroughly, and make a formal statement of my findings. Would require something in the region of 24 seconds of my time. Sorry? Does the item warrant 24 seconds of my time, Mr. Naruhodo? Male Strongheart.
So, what are your impressions of our capital so far? How do you like London?
Oh, well... I've been so nervous ever since I got here that I can't remember a single thing about the city. It's simply splendid, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh.
Oh?
We had a wonderful view of some of London's streets from the carriage on the way here from the station. Everything is so impressive and grand. I must say, I'm almost lost for words.
I'm glad to hear you like it. The city boasts tramways, piped water and gas, even cables supplying electricity. We spearhead every revolutionary new technology in the world. Every visitor to London is astounded.
Yeah, I imagine that's what London was still telling themselves in the early 1800s. Oh yes, astounded is the word. Thanks for saving me there, Susato-san. And everyone seems so jolly and full of vigor.
Yes, there's much excitement about the upcoming great exhibition we will be hosting here in London.
Great exhibition?
Cultural and technological achievements from around the globe are to be exhibited here in our great city. It will be the greatest spectacle of its kind in history, and will make Paris's World Fair look like a toy shop.
Gosh, I can hardly imagine how magnificent it's going to be.
Great Britain's capital is nothing but magnificent. London is the center of the modern world.
Even if you do say so yourself.
The sun will never set on our great empire.
Yeah, that plan didn't work out.
Perhaps it is fate that in these progressive times we welcome visitors from the land of the rising sun. Lord Chief Justice, I think you were expecting a student of law for this study tour, weren't you? Absolutely. Mr. Kazuma Asogi, if my memory serves. That's right. The British government has already been telegraphed a full report on the situation. I understand the young man lost his life aboard the steamship bound for our shores. It's amazing. The news reached him before we even arrived. My country naturally extends its deepest condolences to you. Or to yours. Is it you or yours? Yours. Oh, thank you. And you honored this appointment specifically to inform me of the news? Yes. We are here in the capacities of envoys from Japan to report the sad news in person. They tell me you Japanese are a people of protocol and courtesy. I see that it's true. And it is with some regret that I must inform you that the death of the young lawyer means the study tour arrangement can no longer proceed. If you would just hear us out, Lord Strongheart. What do you have to say, madam? It's about the study tour. Mr. Naruhodo here would like to make a proposal. Would he now? Well, Mr. Naruhodo. This is it then, the moment of truth. The thing is, Lord Justice, Lord Strongheart, I was wondering if perhaps you would consider allowing the study tour to go ahead. Don't misunderstand me. Britain would ideally like to see the tour go ahead. But without a lawyer from your country, there's nothing to be done. Well, in that case, what if there was someone else? Another lawyer from Japan, I mean. Is there something I don't know? Only a single lawyer was invited to Great Britain from your country, and that was Mr. Asogi. At least that's what I've been led to understand. Well, the thing is, this really isn't going well. I just can't seem to find the right words to say to this man. I mean, do what Asogi said, just blurt it out. Don't worry about fancy statements, say what you need to say, while you have the chance to say it. Mr. Naruhodo, I could ruin things here if I'm not careful. What am I going to say? If there's someone else here from Japan who could be described as a lawyer, it's... Hang on, I have to give the wrong answers first. I kinda just have to. I gotta know how this goes. It's Miss Susato. It can probably only be, yes, Miss Susato. An unusual introduction. But I presume you mean this charming lady beside you. You're a lawyer, are you? Look, she's giving me. After all the days of hard work she put in to help me study, I can't let her down. I think that's quite enough joking, don't you, Lord Strongheart? My real answer is... I want to see what happens if I say it's no one. It's only been 40 days since Kazuma died, and yes, I've studied as hard as I possibly could, but can I really stand before this terrifying man and claim that I can do the job? Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, only one lawyer. I'm not sure if I can stand before this terrifying woman and claim I can't. I'll end up upside down on the floor if I do that. Not that I'm scared of a Susato takedown, obviously, but still, perhaps I should change my answer. Alright. I'll give the right answer. It's me. I can do it. Is that so? I mean, I don't actually have any qualifications as such, but... No qualifications, you say? And yet you still claim to be a lawyer. I have acted as a lawyer in court... I've acted as a lawyer in court before. Only once as it happens. And I had Kazuma to help me, and I was the accused, but glossing over those details. I've been spending every spare moment on the journey here to Great Britain studying. I've learned all about British law and court proceedings while I was on board the SS Beria. The voyage from Japan is some 50 days, I believe. Not what you might call the full education. To become a qualified lawyer here in Britain, not only do you need a university degree in law, you must complete several years of training. I realize it's far too short a period of time. To be fair, Kazuma didn't meet those requirements either. Like, I doubt that any of the universities in Japan were issuing degrees that would have been fully recognized over in Britain, and honestly vice versa. And he certainly didn't have several years of training. I can't just go back to Japan. Mr. Asoki's journey had only just begun. Coming here on this study tour was all he thought about. I have to carry on and do everything he planned to do. I know it must sound like I have an overinflated opinion of myself, but I would do anything to prove that I have what it takes. Any test you care to set me. Just one chance, that's all I'm asking for. Please. 31 seconds. Sorry? Your opening statement there, Mr. Naruhodo. It was 31 seconds long. Not too brief, not too protracted. A perfectly judged appeal, I would say. Which is a skill that would stand you in good stead as a lawyer. Oh, thanks. So, you're willing to put those words to trial, are you? Well, I'm all for entertainment. You may have noticed that I clearly carry a humorous leaning, as evidenced by how expressive my face has been in this time that we have been talking. The mirth at your proposal, I'm sure you could tell, was unbounded. Huh? Well, let me ask you one thing first, sir. Yes. You say you intend to do everything Mr. Asogi planned to do. Are you firmly set on that path? Well, yes, that's my intention. I see. Am I imagining things? Or did his expression just alter a fraction there all of a second? Very well. You have your wish. I'll give you a chance. A test to become a specially certified lawyer. Whether you pass or fail is entirely down to you. Really? Let's hear about this test. So what form will the test take exactly? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, what do you consider the role of a lawyer to be? Well, defending people, of course. Well said. So let's have you defend someone. Huh? Your timing is perfect, in fact. There's an apt trial to begin later today. No advocate has been appointed for the defense as yet, so this will be welcome news. Today? Straight away? If you manage to secure a verdict of not guilty, you'll have passed my test. What could be simpler? How do I get myself into these situations? Well, could I ask what sort of trial it is, Lord Strongheart? Yes, good question. I remember. It's a murder trial. A murder? An extremely simple case, I understand. You really can't lose. That's easy to say. But I should mention, just in case, if the defendant is found guilty, he will of course be sentenced to capital punishment. Capital punishment? He'll be put to death? Here in Great Britain, murderers are sent to the gallows without exception. Presumably you read that much in your short C-based introduction to British law. I can't possibly agree to such a test. You'll be toying with a man's life. I am the Lord Chief of Justice, and I've decided it's acceptable. But you can't do that, can you? You have to prove that you're ready to own up to your words. There's no need to overcomplicate this. All you have to do is ensure that you don't lose. So the defendant may live or die, depending on how well I perform in court. If I lose, he'll be hanged. Mr. Naruhodo, you've come to me, claiming to be a lawyer. If you want me to take you seriously, you need to prove you're willing to do a lawyer's job. And if you say you intend to see through the will of your compatriot, Mr. Asogi, I would like to understand just how far you're willing to go in order to make that happen. He's testing my resolve. What's the matter? You've fallen silent. I'm sorry, but time is pressing. If the trial begins shortly. I need an answer from you now. What's it to be? I'll do it. Alright then, if I have to give you a decision now, my answer is I can't do it. I can't get the words out. 15 seconds. Your decision making needs work if you want to be a lawyer. That was too slow. So, it's as I suspected, is it? Sorry? You have noble intentions, but lack the resolve to see them through. The test is cancelled. Thank you for stopping by. Go and acquire your ticket for passage back to the east tomorrow. This conversation is over. Yes, Lord Strongheart. Thank you for offering me a chance. Mr. I don't know why it didn't let me say that I'll do it. Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but what could I do? It's alright, I understand. You do? It's not an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, but resolve has absolutely nothing to do with it. What are you trying to say, madam? I think what Miss Susato means is that no matter how badly I'd like to be recognized as a lawyer and stay here in Great Britain, to risk another man's life by treating his one and only chance at a trial so trivially would be utterly unforgivable. And I feel exactly the same way. I'm sure the defendant won't see this trial as a test, as some kind of experiment. A lawyer may fight for his clients in court day after day, but for each one of those clients, the particular day they stand in the dock may be the only chance they have to fight to prove their innocence. No, I was wrong. I'm not qualified to do that job yet. I'm sorry for wasting your precious time, Lord Chief Justice. Wait, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, was there something else? It's approximately 20 minutes by carriage to the Old Bailey from here. If you leave immediately, you should still be there in time. But I just said that... I was quite serious in what I told you. The defendant in this case has literally no one to advocate for him. What? At this point, he can't hope to find someone to represent him. The trial will begin without a defense. And if that happens, there's only one possible outcome. He will receive the most severe sentence the judge can pass down. But that's awful. But that is the truth. Why does it have to be like this? Please, don't expect an answer to every question. The cold, hard truth of the matter is that there's only one person now with a chance to save this man from a very miserable end. And that is you. I'm really his only hope? So, what do you say now, madam? Me? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? You said it wasn't an easy decision to choose whether to defend a man in these circumstances, and I agree. But in my estimation, it is purely and simply a matter of resolve. Oh. Our time is up here. I have a meeting to attend. I must leave in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. So, venture into our great city and enjoy yourselves. He's gone. The Old Bailey. If we're going to do this, Mr. Naruhodo, we must leave at once. If I need to throw you out, I will. The amount of abuse this man faces, for goodness sake. Let's go. London's highest criminal court with an illustrious past, the Old Bailey. This is where I'm to take my test and prove my worthiness as a lawyer. 18th February, 9:45 a.m. Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Oh, thank goodness, we're here in time. There's still 15 minutes until the trial begins. I never knew a horse-drawn carriage could go so fast. I thought my teeth were going to rattle loose. Did you hear what I said to the driver when we climbed aboard? Get us to our destination in 5 minutes, driver, and there's a guinea in it for you. It's one of my favorite lines from the Herlock Sholmes stories, and it worked perfectly. I'm not sure why you're so pleased. I thought we were going to die, and we had to pay gold for the privilege. Well, at least we arrived here before the trial started. Yes, I suppose there's that. Anyway, I don't understand it. The court clerk said that the defendant should be here, but there's no sign of him at all. Oh no, we're the defendant again. So this is the Old Bailey. Even this room for defendants to wait in is grand. Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm feeling tense, that's all. This place gives me the same sense of foreboding that I remember from the Supreme Court in Japan. An oppressive air, almost as if the building itself is going to crush whoever is about to be sentenced. Feels like only yesterday that I was the one about to be crushed. Yes, whoever the man you're to defend is, I imagine he's feeling very alone at this moment. Top of the morning. I cannot do an Irish accent to save my life, I'm sorry. Top of the morning to you, madam. Sir. What are you doing following me here? Things are fair desperate, aren't they? There's some turn to the tongue that I just can't get right. I've tried and failed so many times. Sorry? Would you take a look at those expressionless faces from the East, Arius? We're from Japan, yes. Japan, is it? Right, say no more. So, how much do you need? No, we're just here because... No need to explain, fella. I've been there myself, so I have. No place to go, nothing to eat, barely a penny to your name, all while in a strange, faraway land. Well, actually, we haven't found a place to stay yet, no. 'Tis grand, 'tis grand. Let me start by giving you 1,000 guineas. Say nothing now. 1,000 guineas. Please, Miss Suzuto, you don't have to shout. But 1,000 guineas is enough to build an entire mansion in the most prestigious area of Tokyo. What? This is nothing to me at all, I assure you. I like to ensure I have sufficient funds to weather a rainy day, you see. I have enough wealth to buy the city of London 2 or 3 times over. Could that much rain even fall in one day? Even so, we couldn't possibly accept such a large sum of money. Ah, that hit me in the eye. Don't get me wrong, fella. I'm not giving it to you no strings attached. I'll be wanting you to do something for me. Oh? To be honest, it's a little embarrassing. The trial that's about to begin, you see, is for me good self here. I'll be in the dock. So now, what I want you to do is come along with me and stand there beside me. Officially, you'd be my lawyer, but that's just a little detail now. Yeah, see, I'm pretty sure I'm going more Italian than Irish. Oh, well, the thing is, don't worry about a thing. All you have to do is stand up there next to me, nothing more. Otherwise, you see, the trial is going to start without me having any kind of representation at all. So it was true. The Lord Chief Justice wasn't just making it all up. I'm terribly sorry to have to ask, but
Does that mean you're the defendant in this trial? Luster and blazes, do yous not know who I am? Me, one of London's biggest names. No, sorry, we've only just arrived in the city. Yeah, I think I'm just going to accept that he has become Italian now. I see. I suppose it isn't altogether impossible. Here, I'll... Wait, no, he's not Italian because I'm not doing the hand thing. I'm not doing the Mamma Mia hand thing, so... I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But... No, I am just going to accept that I have defaulted to an Italianish accent and roll with it. Well, just next to Hyde Park there in the center of London is another beautiful park. Sorry, a park? What? It is called McGilded Park, full of blooming blossoms in the spring and singing birds and whatnot. I donated it to the city, so I did. An entire park in central London? A city of smiles, that's my vision for London. There's nothing Magnus McGilded wouldn't do for the city and its quarry old people. That's amazing. I mean, really extraordinary. But... No, they've the gall to say I'm a good-for-nothing criminal. Me, Magnus McGilded. What is the matter with the London police, I ask you? Alright, don't pass out. Mr. Naruhodo. Perhaps now would be a good time to introduce ourselves while the gentleman catches his breath? Good idea. Mr. McGilded, the thing is, we're actually here in London to study British law. We're law students on a study tour from Japan, you see. So, if you don't have a lawyer for the trial yet, and you'd be happy to put yourself in our hands, we'll do our best. What was I after saying, you daft Egypt? I've given you 1,000 guineas to stand up there next to me, haven't I? Well, yes, but I wasn't really offering to just stand up there next to you. Oh, I think I see what's going on here now. I know what you're thinking. This Chancellor of Fellers claims to have more money than the Queen. But if that's true, why the blazes can't he hire the finest lawyer in all of England? Because he did it. That's the only explanation. Oh, welcome to the stream here, Mr. Umbrella. Pluralize it. There you go. I don't know how I managed to cross wires and just read your message. Welcome to the stream, Schwoopsy. Well... I mean, I imagine that the victim is probably the best lawyer in all of London. And that's why he can't find a lawyer to represent him. I'm going to say not at all. This is episode 3. Not at all, although it is a little strange, to be honest. Why don't you have a lawyer? Why you don't have a lawyer, I mean. That would be the fault of the Reaper. Sorry, did he just say Reaper? Aye, the Grim Reaper of the Bailey, Lord Baruch Van Zieks, is the prosecutor. The prosecutor is the Grim Reaper? When Van Zieks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. Also, I have just accepted that because I am completely incapable of doing an Irish accent, that this guy has now become Italian. Don't question it too much. And to this day, in every single trial which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. Yeah, I can't do an Irish accent no matter how hard I try. If I try for a genuine Irish accent, it winds up Scottish. So I figure I'll just do completely the wrong accent and roll with it. So now this guy is Italian. Also, we've decided that Ryu is canonically Canadian because he was just way too polite about the whole process of him being accused of murder in the first game. Or in the first episode. So, it's reached the desperate situation. Well, there's no one willing to stand in defense against the fella at all. You could say he's a living legend of the Old Bailey. Goodness, Lord Baroque Van Zieks. He must be an exceptionally talented prosecutor, then. Talented isn't the word you're looking for, madam. It's cursed. Cursed? What on earth? The defendant is summoned, and his counsel. Please make your way to the courtroom. The trial is about to begin. His counsel, that would be me. Oh, 'tis time. Well then, a fella, don't let me down. Your brother voices Gumshoe with a British accent and no one else? I'm not sure how well that fits, to be honest. Gumshoe is not particularly British. I don't know anything about the case. You haven't told me what happened. Until you showed your face here, I'd made up my mind, so I had. Sorry? I decided I'd have to defend myself in there. How would that have worked? But then you made an appearance, a student of law, wouldn't you know? There's no accident, I can assure you of that. It is a fate. So don't get cold feet now, please. Either fits too well or you're desensitized. Fair enough. I literally know nothing about the case or about this man who stands accused. In fact, the only thing I do know is that I can't just turn my back on him. Mr. Naruhodo, the man has no one. He'll have to stand alone in that courtroom armed with nothing to defend himself. Yes, something that Cosmo would never have allowed to happen. Counsel for the defense. No. Counsel for the defense. What are you doing? If you're late for the start of the trial, you'll lose your right to... If you're late for the start of the trial, you'll lose the right to stand. I'll be right there. It's happening then. I love how this section was still referred to in the save files as part of the investigation. Like, how? How was this in any way an investigation? My first trial in British court. I hope you're watching over me, Cosima. Because I have no idea how I'm gonna manage this. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's the worst thing ever. Like, he has a minimal amount of experience, but he does have some grasp of law at this point. However, there's definitely an issue with going into the room without having read the court record, for example. Oh my, that's a bunch of people. So this is the highest court in Great Britain, the Old Bailey. As an incredibly wealthy philanthropist with a wonderful reputation in London, I'm to defend him as a test of my worthiness to become a lawyer. So this is the highest court in Great Britain, the Old Bailey. Centuries of history in this place is palpable, isn't it? It's so different to the Supreme Court in Japan. It feels both imposing and serene at the same time. The atmosphere almost makes the words redundant. Whatever the country, determining a person's guilt or innocence is always a solemn affair. May I say something, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh, yes, what? Your eyes look ready to pop out of your head again. I know, but I just can't help it. Oh my, that beard. Honestly, I preferred the beard on the judge in Japan.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are here to determine the guilt or innocence of Mr. Magnus McGilded. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared. Blah, blah, blah. And this be the Reaper of the Bailey. He really does look fully prepared to dispatch his next poor victim to the underworld. Counsel for the defense, you appear to be Eastern. Do you speak English?
Huh? Oh, yes, of course, sorry. But he asked if the defense was ready. And I couldn't be further from ready if I tried.
Those eyes please me, Nipponese. They shroud your fear, your doubt, your trepidation. They run wild, clinging to some phantom notion of courage. The quintessential look of a sacrificial lamb, blah blah blah.
I'm sorry, but they gave him such a vampire motif, I have to roll with it. A cold shiver just ran down my spine all the way to the tips of my toes.
Now, Mr. McGilded.
Yes, my lord.
You stand accused of murder, a capital offense. You could be sent to the gallows if found guilty. Are you quite sure you wish to entrust your defense to this foreigner? One guilty defendant. Two guilty defendants.
Yeah, I'm down with it. Congratulations, Edgeworth's ancestor. You just became the Count.
As I've always said, my lord, it's a grand thing to give opportunities to the young, even if the fella is a student from some little island off in the Far East. Is it not the British way to ignore the dangers to yourself and give those less fortunate a chance? I'd like to think that acts of chivalry do the great British Empire proud. Do the great British Empire proud.
So hang on, what was that? Listen to Mr. McGilded, what a fine gentleman London has in him. Did you hear he donated £5,000 to the government the other day? Mother, please may we go play in McGilded Park. Seems as though everyone in the public gallery is firmly behind Mr. McGilded. That's definitely welcome news, and he certainly has a way with words. I'm surprised he couldn't convince anyone to defend him. Do you think you would pay off your student loans? Unfortunately, he is probably dead. Not anything to do with the passage of time, mind you. I'm just pretty sure that he's going to be sent to the gallows after this case. Anyway.
Eloquently put, Mr. McGinley, and most laudable sentiments. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm sure I need hardly remind you that you 6 members of the public have been selected for your impartiality. Are you ready to proceed?
What is with the nose on the guy in the green hat? Also, I'm going to move my webcam. I hope that will work. I'm still trying to find the right place to keep it during this. But at the very least, that should cut off a minimum of the people on screen. Yes, my lord, if the task is to send rotters to the gallows where they belong, I'm more than ready. At the manor, his lordship always says we should dispose of rubbish promptly. Naturally, I agree. Ah, any criminals here will soon be wishing they never set eyes on me. I feel a chill. Oh, don't mind me, dears. I'll just be getting on with my knitting. I must finish these mitts for my grandson. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo, those people are... the jury, yes. That's something we don't have in Japan yet. That's right, I've only ever read about it. But here in Great Britain, the court's final verdict depends on the opinions of these 6 jurors. The judge passes sentence according to the law, but the jurors determine guilt based on common sense. So the defendant is ultimately judged from 2 completely different points of view. But how exactly do jurors give their verdict? That I don't know, but I'm sure it will become clear as the trial progresses. Yes.
Prosecutor Hans Hicks. My lord, it's been a number of years since we've seen you here in the courtroom. I thought you had renounced your fame. I am known as the Reaper of the Bailey, my lord. Infamy rather than fame, I would say. But yes, 5 years have passed since I last spread my wings in this capacity. So what brings you back? The wife and kids would love it if you visited more often. Just try to leave all their blood in their veins this time. Is there some change of circumstance of which the court should be aware? I leave that to your imagination, my lord.
So the Reaper has been out of action for 5 years. Why did he have to choose today of all days to make a comeback? Don't lose heart, Mr. Naruhodo.
As you wish, sir. The court nevertheless welcomes your return. I'll send word along to the missus. Make sure there's a hot kettle on after the trial, you know. Now then, opening statements, I think. A summary of the case, if you please. Certainly, my lord. As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. Must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. I'll be honest, I don't know the difference between a teapot and a kettle, so... Anyway. The victim was a maker of building bricks known in the community as thrice-fired mason. Sorry? Thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. The bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service. The victim's corpse was discovered in an omnibus in service on the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here is the autopsy report from the investigating medical officer at the Scotland Yard. Thank you, Counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. Autopsy report. Internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab wound. Photograph of the crime scene. His face is partly obscured from view by an old crooked hat. And one further item of evidence. Kettle runs off electricity and is for boiling water. Teapot is for tea leaves and bags to mesh with hot water. Are you sure there aren't non-electrical kettles? Thrice-fired mason, male, age 54, brickmaker, February 15th, 10 to 11 p.m. sometime. Stabbed once in the abdomen with a knife whilst journeying in an omnibus. Died due to internal hemorrhaging resulting from the trauma. And... honestly, I don't even agree that the dude's face is partly obscured. Seems pretty clear, to be honest. I like the effect of having a reflection right there. So I imagine the missing button is going to be important. That's about the only detail that I noticed that seems relevant. Missing button and maybe the reflection will be claimed to be like him on the other side of the window or something. I don't know. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good Lord, is that blood, Counsel? Then what's the equivalent thing that you would use, that you would put, over a fire? Could have sworn there was a cast iron, like, kettle-like thing that you could hang over a fire to heat up your water before pouring it in with your tea leaves. But maybe I'm just going insane. Who knows? Good Lord, is that blood, Counsel? And you haven't licked it up. Have you finally kicked the habit, then? Is that what that 5-year hiatus was for? Yes, my lord. That is why I took 5 years off. You've found me out. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilded's gloves had blood on them. Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record. So did those exist in that time period, though? That's the thing that I'm not sure about. Because again, I don't actually drink tea, so I really know very little. I have had tea once, and that was because somehow the waitress brought that instead of root beer. I still don't know how that mistake happened. It wasn't even sweet tea, which is insane because I was in Florida at the time. Like, there's more sweet tea in Florida than water, and yet somehow, when someone mistakenly brought me tea, they didn't even bring me sweet tea. Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, one sec. Gotta put the fan on before it gets too warm. Leather gloves the defendant was wearing at the time of the incident. There is a blood stain on the right glove. How did I get into this? Okay, well, anyway, I want to see those gloves. Definitely blood. Not the most pleasant sight. Nothing will come of grumbling now. Anyway, is Mr. McGilded right-handed? Yes, I believe so. He was toying with a coin in his right hand a little earlier. Yeah, that adds up. So I remember he flicked it at me, and I'm pretty sure that was with his right hand. Ah, pity. If only he'd been left-handed. I think blood on either glove would be fairly incriminating, really. Just trying to see if there's anywhere else to zoom in. Okay, so there's not much to examine about this yet. I'm backed into a corner right before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaster, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Mr. McGill. Oh, well, rather damning circumstances to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Of course, I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilded. To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening, but whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Little so it is. And when I opened my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me, the body of a man I'd never laid eyes on before in me life. Now I ask you, what good heart soul wouldn't rush out to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand.
So the blood got on the gloves then, after the man had been killed. I'm not sure I buy that. If he died from that knife wound, there would have been a lot of blood. And yet he somehow only has it on one hand? Surely he would have wound up using both hands to cover it at the very least. Internal hemorrhaging as a result of a single stab, so maybe there wasn't that much blood because the knife was still in the wound. Unfortunately, that statement of the drivers is only the beginning. That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Blah, blah, blah. Order. When the killing took place, the only victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Alright, I will look it up. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Blah, blah, blah. Bailiff, bring the witnesses at once. Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I, make hats for gents. So that's a woman, first of all, for sure. Like, surely. Otherwise, what's with the name? And the hat constantly falling off. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus, and the witness to the aforementioned incident. Oh, hang on. So, first thing that's going to be an issue is that the window is fogged. Oh, like the phrase ladies first. Look, sometimes I'm wrong. I spent the entire last case thinking that it was going to eventually shift to a courtroom. Anyway, the glass is bubbled, so there's very little that they could have reliably seen based on that. Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Very well, then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. Witness testimony. What the witnesses saw.
It was the last bus of the evening, so I had few customers. I remember her well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over, plunged a knife right into his guts.
That's right, he stabbed him. I screamed, I did, couldn't help it.
As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus, and then I saw it too. Ambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes.
I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Yes, counsel?
Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
Why not?
Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it?
As has been clearly stated from the outset, yes.
Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of the moving carriage.
Oh, quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself. Are you really so ignorant about our omnibuses?
Huh?
Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus?
Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning.
No matter. I've arranged for us to all see for ourselves the actual scene of the crime, that is.
What do you mean? The actual scene? How?
A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much.
Yes.
The omnibus in which the bloody crime took place is here today in this very building. My mouth is watering at the very thought.
Here? What? The entire carriage?
Bailiff, bring forth the stricken omnibus.
This is an interesting choice. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. I guess they had to disassemble it, but then again, those are some pretty dang big doors.
As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers.
Four passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin. Wait, hang on. Yeah. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights are to be had from the top of an omnibus. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof allowing a view from the interior from the seats above. Skylight. Oh. The penny drops at last, I see. I mean, yeah, put the double-decker bus right in the courtroom. Just drive it through the wall, honestly.
These two gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. But the skylight looks identical to the windows, and again, those are bubbled. Well, Counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. Oh, no. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Very well, I see no reason why not. This omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. Okay, this is a fun part. I appreciate this. 8-seater omnibus, that was the scene of the crime. Passengers inside and on the roof deck that night. I can't believe it, the entire crime scene entered as evidence. That's incredibly helpful, thank you. Okay, so... Huh, why aren't the windows bubbled in this view, then? Roof deck of the omnibus. They'll sit up all the way up here on bitter winter nights with cold air rushing past them and have to pay money to do so. Can't imagine how cold it must feel. Just made me think of something horrible. Can you imagine being dragged around the city in the freezing cold as a punishment? Perhaps that is the real price you pay to stay out late. You can see the inside of the carriage through the opening, that's for sure. There's a lamp in the enclosed cabin, so they would have been able to see clearly. Phoenix Wright Omnibus, really? Really? Can I examine the undercarriage at all? Yeah. Alright, well, let's take a look on the inside. Jobmaster's London head office. Huh. Well, let's open the door and go inside, shall we? Scene of a murder. It's horrible. Okay. So, hang on. I'm actually just going to go back. Okay, so they would have seen... If they were sitting in the back seats, they would have had the angle on the crime. Can confirm this. What's this? Poster for the Great Exhibition. A lot of focus being drawn to the Crystal Tower, the centerpiece of the whole exhibition. It's under construction already, I believe. People all over London must be fizzing with excitement at the prospect of such a grand event. I didn't mean to go back out. I wish I could open the court record in here. It's quite a large skylight. Large enough to afford a good view into the cabin from the roof deck. Doesn't appear to be a handle or catch of any description, so it can't be opened from inside the cabin at least. Can it be opened from outside the cabin? There is storage space under the seats. Blood that soaked into the seat, the victims, obviously. The seat would be clearly visible from the roof deck. Should really stab someone in full view of the other passengers like that. It's after dark and there was a lamp on in here, so perhaps the culprit couldn't see anything outside through the skylight. Doesn't seem like it was a planned attack. I'm not actually sure how he comes to that conclusion. Like, I'll accept it because the stuff that he says like that is consistently accepted. The seat has a handle. It's like all sorts of equipment that might be needed to keep the omnibus running. Heating tubs, repair wheels, blankets, horseshoeing tools. Storage compartment for the coachman to keep his things. Doesn't seem to be any space for passengers to stow their luggage. I imagine it would be very convenient for that purpose anyway. Reasonably soft, but actually looks reasonably soft, but rather hard. Just wide enough for two gentlemen to sit side by side. This gentlewoman would be in such finery, it'd be quite impossible for her to climb up to the roof deck, so she would have to be seated in here. A woman in a kimono would have the same problem. Women's clothes are very impractical, aren't they? I was very excited for my sister the other day. She found pants with pockets. I was impressed. Aha! There is a way to open it from the outside, though. Okay, so I'm guessing I'll just have to point that out at some point. Just want to make sure everything lines up. So that's what that looks like. Does the interior match? No. He would have been sitting here. Haha. Yeah, he definitely would have been sitting here. Look at this section in particular if you're not sure what I'm talking about compared to this. We see this kind of structure in the picture. Which means we can pretty precisely identify that the victim was sitting right here when the picture was taken, not there.
Okay, we've got some ammunition. Yes, Great Britain is simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here.
Let us continue with the proceedings, then. Your cross-examination counsel. Ray, don't expect these Nipponists to stray to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. My first cross-examination in a British court. Focus, Ryu. Focus. Oh, and he's wearing his friend's sword. I hadn't spotted it before, but good. What the witnesses saw. It's the last bus of the evening. Victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. Stabbed him. Screamed, I couldn't help it. As soon as he heard the scream, stopped the bus, and then I saw it too. Okay, I'm going to press on that last comment. Because I think that's where things are. I'm going to press on that one, and I might present the carriage as evidence against it, because here's the thing. The obvious issue with his statement, this is where the driver sits. If he claims to have seen it right after the scream, then that once again indicates that it would have been happening here. What he would have seen would have been there, but what they would have seen would have been here. Anyway. You know what? I'll press on everything. Just to play it safe. I might not read out every part of this, by the way, just to keep things moving along.
Hold it!
Sometime after 10. Had 4 passengers on board at the time. Not all traveling in the same parts of the bus, of course, though. There were no other passengers, no one alighted. Quite right with that, sir. No other passengers. Nobody fled the scene. I have to say, the boss insists on it running. He does every evening, the last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? It's so cold. Only making 20 pence on the run, you see. Spend that much at the pub on the way home just trying to warm up again. Saw them through the skylight in the roof of the carriage. Two of them were wearing hats and he couldn't make out their faces. Not a shred of doubt in my mind that it was Mr. McGilded. Can you be so sure? How can I put it politely? McGilded is a gentleman of rather small stature. I couldn't have mistaken him for anyone else. When the vehicle came to a halt, the only people inside the enclosed cabin were the deceased and Mr. McGilded.
Hold it!
I actually saw the moment it happened. And I already testify to that. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail.
My lord. Juror number 3, what is the meaning of this?
My mind is made up, my lord, completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich, never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be, every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, he can't fool me. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter, anyway.
That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors.
Dang. So just pressing on that one particular statement got them to drop 2 votes to convict. Let me see. Ah, yes, here. It seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Apparently, yes. White for innocent and black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one, they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice, as we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our very best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. I'm assuming they're capable of changing votes, though.
Very well, the court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination.
This is a nightmare.
Hold it!
He stabbed him, you say, and you were sitting up on the roof deck. So next to the fellow that was stabbed.
Excuse me!
Oh, wait, that was not what I meant to do.
Hold it!
And I happened to look down through the skylight. That was it. It was sticking right out from his belly, that huge great knife.
Grim sight indeed.
The jury looked like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. It appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions.
Mr. First.
Oh, yes, sir.
Is this the knife you saw?
Oh, good grief, yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that...
Yes, Counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake to the heart. People have tried to drive stakes to my heart, but that's actually a myth. That is not how you kill vampires.
It is a blade of considerable size, Counsel.
That is a blade of considerable size, Counsel. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial.
Oh, that's a better response, Schwoopsy, but...
M, which seems oddly familiar.
Please, no. Well, I mean, the other dude's name was Mason. Winner... Incident. Like, the other guy's dude was named Mason. I don't actually know that that is where the dagger was his, but like, he also fits the M.
It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake. I am fond of alliteration.
Objection!
It could be a W, it was Will. It was Wilco. But there are M's everywhere. Like in Mason.
Objection!
This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused.
Yep, Will did it. We've solved the case, everyone can go home now. Except Will. He's going to jail for murder and stinky crimes.
Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, Counsel.
My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption.
Juror number 2, go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman, and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct.
However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish. No. I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I've painstakingly typed every word uttered here today, and cross-referenced all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. Okay, so I definitely need to... That's 4 out of 6 jury members who've proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. I've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I just make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. We're still very much in the dark. Suppose I'll just have to keep pressing the witnesses, knowing that more sparks may well fly. Mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But... Alright, I'll keep trying. Can't give up. I just need to keep calm and listen to the witnesses' statements again. So I just want to take a look at the murder weapon first of all. Can I pull it out? Oh, sorry. I just don't really like blades. Those don't seem like the words of a man with a large katana slung from his waist. It's not a blade, that's Kazuma's soul. Anyway, there's no sense in delaying it. Let's see what the blade looks like. Oh, and I do see the M. Or the W. That looks a lot like blood. Englishman's blood looks a lot like a Japanese man's blood. Did you think it wouldn't? Sorry, it's just that we've only just arrived here in Great Britain. Finding it a little hard to adjust. Yes, I do understand. An 8-letter M/W. Mr. Magnus McGilded's initial. Beautifully gilded, too. Must be very valuable. Ah, what is it? Look at this M. If you turn it upside down, it becomes a W. This could change everything. A W? Yes, this is one of those, you know, turnabout cases. I'm sure of it. I'm afraid I don't know it all, but what I am sure of is that this is an M. Oh, well, the idea was quickly quashed. Doesn't seem to be much to comment on. Much to look at with this. Okay. I need to drop a save. What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor he was. And why is a passenger? Obviously, you are referring to the victim, Mr. Mason the brickmaker. And the other passenger had that knife in his hand like this. Why is the other passenger? You are obviously referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then he plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the... Wait, so... He was only stabbed once, bruh. What? My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5? Do I take it that you too? As the master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. The horse is bolted, as they say. No, please, just keep an open mind a little longer. Gee up now, Silver Blaze. The finish is in sight. Beppo is a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind. This is too unkind, sir. Which now means that 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dear, what can I do for you? You have heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh, yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dear, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day and sit down on a nice bench and get on with my knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park, it's called. The gentleman donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He's always doing wonderful things for the city, and like that wouldn't stab someone. Maybe go to the McGilded Public Library later and borrow some more books.
How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? Do you people not know? What kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? Bleh, What kind of a man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client is a Shylock, sir, one with the very darkest of souls.
I have no clue what that is, so I'm going to do a quick Google. A moneylender. Someone who lends money at excessive rates of interest. What? Stone the crows!
McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hopes of repaying him. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He is a vulture that preys on the weak.
Yeah, that came up in the Google. I have never read or seen The Merchant of Venice, though, so the Google was necessary. I've never heard any mention of that before.
Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, madam. So has this thought not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service?
You're not saying that.
The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save a considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accused, Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known that the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment day for his debts. Good gracious. The brickmaker was destitute. He had lost his house. He had not a shilling with which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he owned taken from him, his life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded.
Unbelievable. If I might add something briefly, Miss Susato. You claim that the victim had been lent money by Mr. McGilded. But where's the evidence to support your claim?
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in the court of law. I assure you, I do not drink blood in the court. I save that for after. There it is, Lord Van Zeke's hallowed chalice.
How can this be considered acceptable?
But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I had heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it for myself.
As judicial assistance to the defense, I'm simply doing my job.
What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, Counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. Debtor's ledger. Victim owed 20 guineas. Ah yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. And the accused made quite certain he had ample recompense.
Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over my eyes.
Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accused.
And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel. Still, maybe it's all for the best.
Wait a minute, let's think about this a little more before.
I don't stand for nonsense.
I don't feel like I actually had an opportunity to win that, so I'm assuming something is about to happen. That was it. That was the last juror's decision. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and sentence. That's what it says here. Final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement on this case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Miss Susato, just tell me one thing. Oh yes, you're in the middle of saying something before. Footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Oh yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, presiding judge, blah blah blah. However, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. Summation examination.
Objection!
A summation examination? From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Judging from the binding, I would say the book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten and certainly no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato? So-called summation examination. Oh, one moment and I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even know what it before you even understand what it entails. Typical Nipponese. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand.
Seems that under this procedure we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leaning and reverse their decisions. And it says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions.
Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use a summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision, but that procedure became something of a formality with no practical benefit, so it rather fell out of use.
I wonder why.
Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try it in this day and age.
Still, I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Alright, how am I planning to change their mind, though? Last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? Obviously, we're going to assert it, but I do want to drop a save here. The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But if it's alright, it's alright. I believe it could prove vital to this trial.
The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination.
This is madness.
Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready?
Eh?
Well, I'm not, there was no mention of this in the letter I received, so... All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision.
On what grounds?
You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty.
Oh, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is a man's life in your hands, like... Be prepared to be put on the spot, okay? I'm not saying he's not a scumbag, because he probably is. But... This is most irregular. No mention of this was made of this before. I don't really hold with all this justifying lark. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. Seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then, the summation examination. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for to turn this trial around.
So be it then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The court hereby calls upon you to state the grounds on which you find the defendant, Magnus McGilded, guilty of this most serious crime.
Judicial... judicial... Hang on, I need to see if... No, it doesn't tell me what that word was. I could not read it. The jurors' contentions. There was no one else inside the carriage at the time, so it has to have been him. I trust the driver. He has an excellent memory, it seems. 4 passengers with fares totaling 20 pence. He stuck the chap next to him just like this. Brazen, I must say. Absolutely brazen. I've simply typed and collated all the statements made thus far and drawn the logical conclusion. You can trust the guild. Fair fares is our motto. We haven't raised prices above... Oh... There it is. Haven't raised prices above 4p for years. The scoundrel stabbing that poor man on the floor, it beggars belief. Also, he wasn't on the floor, from what they said. Starting to wish I hadn't pushed for this now. Some of the jurors don't seem to have wonderfully formed arguments, though, do they? Well, let's see what we can do. We need to get these 6 people to change their minds. Use some very persuasive language. Now focus on the evidence. According to my book, that's not quite how it works. Oh? I thought I was going to have to thaw their icy minds with some heartwarming rhetoric about the defendant. Unfortunately, once the jurors have decided the defendant is guilty, they're unlikely to heed anything the defense says. But then, they've reached their conclusions by their own reasoning, you see. Your pleas will sound like excuses. In fact, it could recoil on you. The more you try to persuade them, the more entrenched they may become. What on earth am I supposed to do? Oh dear, I'm just citing what I've read about British law, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, I'm sorry. Do you have any idea how to make this work, then? We have to make them argue with one another. From what I can understand, the key to this procedure is using the jurors' own words to make your arguments. What do you mean? Well, the 6 members of the jury are randomly selected members of the public. They may appear to present a united front, but the truth is, they are complete strangers who just happen to find themselves here in the courtroom together. And that's the way to break them down, you mean? Yes, exactly. We must listen very carefully to what each member of the jury says, and see if we can identify any contradictory statements. If we can, we then contrast the statements and pit the corresponding jurors against each other. I see, so it's contradictions in what 2 or more jurors say that we're looking for. In what way, then? In a way, then, this is similar to a regular cross-examination. I have to say, while I appreciate various aspects of this game, the button that lets you read the history of it is probably the most helpful. Oh yes, I suppose you're right. Find contradictions in their statements and pit the jurors against one another to break them down. Alright, I might be able to pull this off. No, that's not right. I have to pull this off.
Can we start proceedings, Counsel? I would ask you to take the stand for this. I'm expecting a clear and concise rebuttal.
Yes, my lord. Jury examination. The defense's rebuttal. I am kind of just going to dive into this. I could, I guess, press on all of those, but
Objection!
those two statements clearly contradict each other.
They do? Explain yourself, Counsel.
Me? Oh dear, what have I said?
I swear on Silverblaze's main and name, I haven't the first idea what you're talking about.
According to the group testimony we've heard so far, there were 4 passengers on the omnibus on the night in question. And according to the coachman, Mr. Beppo, he took 20p in fares. Quite right, I have those precise details typed neatly here in front of me. And juror number 5 also told us the following. The fare for the omnibus is always fourpence.
There it is. A fair and convenient single price. Just the way London's carriages should be operated.
That doesn't add up at all. In fact, it leaves a glaring discrepancy in the facts.
Why, man, why?
4 passengers paying 4 pence each. If you do the multiplication, it would be 16 pence. Exactly. As I said, it doesn't add up. The figures are different. By 4 pence, in fact. Or precisely 1 person's fare.
1 person's fare?
Yes, in other words, on the omnibus that night, it's distinctly possible there was another passenger we've heard nothing about. So I'm guessing I need to get more than half of them to change their statement.
This can't be right. The coachmen of the guild are good, honest men, one and all. Trustworthiness is our watchword.
Figures your coachman claims most certainly do not add up. Your watchword, good sir, is a fallacy.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Guildmaster, I think you ought to consider that if this trial were to end now, the news will surely spread all over London. The news that one of your coachmen tried to hide the fact that he lets nefarious characters ride his omnibus.
Alright then, how do I make it so this miserable trial doesn't end,
Well, according to my book here, you simply launch a ball of fire onto the innocent side of the set of scales.
Now hold your horses there, coachman. We were all in agreement. Why do you have to go and...
Wait till I get my hands on you, Beppo. This is very irritating. Begging your pardon, sir. I'm going to do the same.
For the love of Mac,
Not you as well. A penny can be the difference between a smile and a tear, after all. I certainly can't put my trust in someone who doesn't follow my exacting standards in financial matters.
Oh, really?
I, for one, think it's only proper that we hear from the witnesses again. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo, you did it. If we can manage to change 2 more jurors' minds, we can force the trial to continue. 2 more. Actually, there is something else that's bothering me about a couple of their assertions. Then that's where you must strike next. Pit 2 more jurors against each other and show there's a contradiction in their assertions. Okay, I do like this. It does feel like the game has had a really long tutorial. Counsel, you have the floor again. Continue with your summation examination.
Objection!
These 2 statements are completely contradictory.
What? Explain, counsel, post haste.
Oh, dearie me, I was only knitting a jumper for my other half. Yeah, I understand that. And that's why I'm kind of trying to force myself to look for a place to stop a little bit earlier so we don't have a repeat of what happened on Tuesday where I continued streaming until roughly midnight because I kept thinking that the case was about to end. What is all this claptrap? What is all this claptrap? What does contradictory even mean, I ask you? We've heard from more than one witness that they allegedly saw the actual moment when the defendant stabbed the victim. Now, out of curiosity, juror number 3... What, can't you see I'm busy here? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim? What sort of motion was it? Ah, want to test me, do you? It was like this. Stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, just like the prim banker said.
Yes, that was Mr. Fairplay's testimony, quite true.
Now then, juror number 6. Oh, is that me, is it? What can I do for you, young man? How would you say the defendant stabbed the victim, madam? Oh, well, dear, as far as I understand it, it was like this. He stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed onto the floor. The coachman said so. Now don't move. Take a look at these 2 jurors. He stuck the fellow next to him without even getting up, and he stabbed the poor man after he'd collapsed on the floor.
Well, I never. They're stabbing in totally different directions.
What? Bless my stitches. Bless my stitches, what a Bless my stitches, what a muddle. I think I've lost the voice. Don't let me keep you from, like, getting to bed at a reasonable time, please. I appreciate you here, but, like, this will go to the YouTube channel if you want to catch up. What this tells us is that there's a strong possibility one of the witnesses isn't telling the truth. Oh! But why the dickens would they lie? I don't know why all of these people are suddenly turning anywhere from Alabama to Texan. Alabaman to Texan. I don't know that yet, but what I do know is that if the trial ends at this point, we may never find out. We may never know the real truth. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you really let that happen in all good conscience? Lies, you say? Oh, dearie me. I can't abide people telling lies. I can't abide people telling lies. The scales. Oh, thank you for the hydrate, Lastborn, and welcome to the stream. And yes, hi, YouTube.
I don't believe it. Wait! Now hear this, my fellow jurors. I warn you, you cannot listen to this man. Look at him in his black suit. He's clearly some devious Eastern sorcerer using magic on us all. Oh, welcome to the stream, Rafkin. If I could use magic, do you really think I'd be putting myself through all this? And hi, I.B. Answer me this, Dark Jinx. Huh? Me? What exactly is the problem? What if the 2 witnesses have slightly different recollection of the events? What of it? Let's say Shylock did stab the victim as he was sat next to him on the omnibus, as this young dandy saw him do it. And now let's say the victim collapsed on the floor, and then the Shylock stabbed him again, as this old lady saw him do it. Well, what's to say it didn't happen like that, hmm? Who are you calling dandy, sir? Why I should take this knife to you? Why I should take this knife to you? Who are you calling old? Why I should take this needle to you? They're ready to kill each other now. But could the foreman of the jury be right? Did the 2 witnesses see 2 different moments of the same crime? Unfortunately, that is out of the question. A single stab wound. Unfortunately, Mr. Foreman. What is it, you dark jinx? Come on out with it.
What you're suggesting is impossible. It's out of the question.
What are you talking about, man? How can you possibly say that? You do realize that I'm only doing my job. As foreman of the jury, I have a responsibility to steer everyone in the right direction. So where's your evidence, man? That's what we want to see. I say the two witnesses saw two different moments of the same crime. If you say that's out of the question, show me some proof.
It's like the only way to convince him is to present him with something he can't dismiss. Some irrefutable, hard evidence. As you wish.
What?
I'll give you the proof. It's out of the question that the two witnesses saw the two different moments of the same crime, as proven by the autopsy report. This is the victim's autopsy report. According to what's written here, Mr. Mason was stabbed in the abdomen only once.
Only once?
It's quite simple. The victim was stabbed precisely one time. Which means these witnesses can't possibly have seen it happen two different times. Yeah. Alright, I concede defeat. Wait, that means 4 jurors are now leaning to not guilty. We've done it, Mr. Naruhodo. We've won. Well, you've won the summation examination.
What are you playing at, you dandy fool?
Shut your trap, sir. No one deceives me.
But we had a consensus.
I said shut your trap. I know a liar when I see one, and if the chap ever dares to cross the threshold of my shop, I'll take this razor-sharp blade and shave every last hair off his head. Please tell me he's a barber.
Well, in a quite remarkable turn of events, the defense's summation examination has flipped the balance of the scales of justice. The jurors now stand at 2 for guilty and 4 for not guilty. Accordingly, there is no longer a large enough majority among the jury for me to adjudicate, and the trial must continue. I hereby ask the defense, prosecution, and witnesses to return to their places, and I call upon all of you to continue to pursue the truth. So, Lord Van Zieks, continue to substantiate the case for the prosecution, if you please.
Oh, he's going to get very drunk.
Having savored the rich aroma of the carmine contents of this hallowed chalice, it may seem crass to crush it to dust. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zieks.
Is it cold in here, or is it just me?
As your antiquated tome no doubt says, the prosecution may not speak during a summation examination.
Sir, there's glass in your hand. Sir, yeah, for real, like... I mean, he's claiming he crushed it to dust, and... What are we talking about? He's a vampire. He has no blood. He can't bleed. So there's no risk of him bleeding out, no matter how bad the wound is. So
I honored a deathly silence and listened to the charade. It seems I overestimated the intelligence of the jury. The intelligence of the jury. Well, no matter. There is nothing so hard to prove as a self-evident truth, it would seem. No, and why else would we grace the courtroom with our presence after all?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if he cut himself. He's got no blood to bleed. a cut would be irrelevant. For a vampire, anyway.
So, let us proceed to the next round of the battle.
I will admit that is a schnazzy outfit, like, respect to it. The gold and navy. And he has no heart for the blood. So even if he had blood, it wouldn't be pumping, and therefore wouldn't be pumped out of the wound. But seriously, the light gold contrasted with the navy, that is really some quality color coordination. Like, looks classy as heck. I can respect this. I would say that he definitely looks classier than Edgeworth.
Bring forth the witnesses once more.
I understand that this whole series is kind of a meta-narrative on the necessity of juries. So, like, I kind of appreciate this part for what it is, as a progression on what was shown in the base game, or in the first games.
Witnesses, I trust you heard the summation examination we have just had to endure.
Oh, for sure. Like, Von Karma is at thrift shops looking for Van Zeke's old stuff.
Yes, sir, I did, sir. Yes, sir, that I did, sir. Of course, I heard it.
Oh, yes, sir, I heard it.
You, sir, the coachman, I believe it's Beppo.
Come to think of it, of these people, yeah, they have all been added. I already saw it.
Yes, sir, my lord, sir. If it transpires that in your previous testimony you were attempting to veil the presence of a fifth passenger on your omnibus, you will be found guilty of perjury. You are advised to bear that in mind, sir. Oh mio Dio. Now then, witnesses, I hereby call on you to testify before the court again. We will explain the various misgivings brought to our attention by the defense's summation examination.
Witness testimony. Various misgivings.
I only carried 4 passengers that night, I swear it, but, well, I, for one, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus.
He fiddled us on the fare, he did. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. And then I saw that blood-curdling sight as well. It's all too much.
I tell you, I saw him McGilded stabbing that man. Everything I said before stands.
Oh,
Yes, he stabbed him. Yes, he did. I think so, yes.
I'm struggling to keep all of these voices straight.
Counsel, make sense of this for me, please.
Okay, so we're going to start looking for a place to stop. Whenever one presents itself, we will take it. I imagine it'll be when these witnesses leave the stand, but if someone else enters, that's also where we'll call it.
The phantom fifth passenger conjured into existence by my learned Eastern friend never existed. The confusion has arisen from the coachman's sly little cousinage. Beppo, explain yourself. I'm terribly sorry, Guildmaster. The guild's fare is 4 pence across the board. You know that. Am I to understand that you've been overcharging our passengers by a penny a fare? It's so cold, and the last run of the day is always half empty. You have been dishonest, coachman. I'm sorry. You're a disgrace, Beppo, a disgrace. And your selfish actions have brought dishonor on the entire guild. If I may, sir, I had to pay 10 pence on the bus just last week. What? 4 passengers at 5 pence each is, yes, 20 pence. I've done the arithmetic at least 10 times already, but I just can't make the result come out differently. No, that figures. There was a more important discrepancy. Well, it would appear that one of the aforementioned misgivings has already been explained. So, counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, if you please. We've already had the pleasure of a protracted summation examination today. I see you intend to continue the parlor games. They're dragging Beppo. I mean, the one thing that I appreciate about it is just that the other dude had to pay 10 pence on the bus the other week, meaning it's not just Beppo that's cranking up the prices. Or Beppo was cranking up the prices a lot that day as opposed to just by 1 pence. Absolutely. Cross-examination. But, was told I had to pay 5 pence for the bus. Fiddled us on the fare, he did. Saw McGilded stabbing that man. Yes, he stabbed him. He did. I think so, yes. I feel like this is the moment to save.
Hold it!
Earlier, you testified that you saw the moment when the defendant allegedly stabbed the victim, didn't you? Yes, that's right. You said that the victim was on the floor and described the assailant as holding the knife in an ice pick grip. I suppose I might have, yes, put the cart before the horse, maybe. What's this? Well, I'm quite sure about most of it. I was driving the horses when I heard a scream from the seats of the roof deck. Oh, I expect that was me, sir. Then, when I turned around, yes, I saw it through the skylight. The gentleman was on the floor, and the knife was sticking up out of his midriff. That's right, yes, and the fellow holding the handle was the famous man, yes. Okay, yeah, they should give him something vaguely warm, like he is somehow still frozen from driving the late shift last night. So, in short, you didn't see the moment when the victim was actually stabbed at all. I really thought that I did, but when I go over it again in my head, no, I suppose I didn't actually see the precise moment of the stabbing, did I?
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Fairplay? Now you listen to me. I know what you're thinking. You didn't really see the exact moment the fellow was stabbed. What are the chances of that? Eh? Are you asking me or telling me? He's getting flustered.
I might be able to extract some new information from him if I answer him cleverly. Could he have just happened to see the exact moment the crime was committed? Some days are like that. Well, I suppose some days are like that. Sooner or later, you'll see something you wish you hadn't. If you're always peeping through a skylight on the top of an omnibus.
Peeping? I'm a respectable city banker, I'll have you know. I know what I saw. I remember it clear as a Ballarat day.
Sir, you cannot do that. This is literally a murder trial. Oh wait, I didn't read that last line.
It was a grim scene, I don't mind telling you. Oh, excuse me, I was getting a little hot under the collar there, my lord. I would ask you to supplement your testimony with a clear statement about what exactly you saw. Oh, I can do that, all right. I'll tell you just how grim it was.
You think I'd forget the sight of those blood-soaked hands right after that butcher stabbed the man? Well, this is an easy enough one to present. But, as always, I am going to save before I present in case I'm somehow jumping the gun.
Objection!
Blood-soaked hands?
Well, I admit that soaked might be laying it on a little thick, but anyway, there was definitely blood all over them. Both of them were covered in it.
I'm very sorry to disagree, Mr. Fairplay, but that's more than a little peculiar.
What?
Here are the gloves worn by the defendant, Mr. McGilded, on the night in question.
Oh, yes, right.
And there certainly does appear to be a sizable dark-colored stain there. But as I'm sure you can clearly see, it's only on the right-hand glove.
Ugh.
In short, Mr. Fairplay, your testimony is inconsistent.
Yeah, but no, that can't be right.
So you're the liar here then, Sonny boy? Sonny Jim? The glove doesn't fit. Love when the sprites reference the OG ones. Oh, you mean like when Ryu does his whole point thing? Or slams the table? Yeah. No, I really appreciate that. That's right, you were quite clear about it. You said it was both hands. That cannot be good for your teeth. Mr. Fairplay, if your last statement was a lie, it calls your entire testimony into question. You say you saw the moment the victim was stabbed, but is that really the truth?
Well,
Objection!
It was a simple mistake. You can't justify accusing this man of lying. Yes, it wasn't both hands. It was only one, but the fact remains. The victim's blood was on the accused.
Objection!
No, Mr. Fairplay categorically stated that he saw blood all over both hands, which means there's a strong possibility that witness was deliberately trying to mislead the court.
Why? I'm a city banker, for pity's sake. My word should be the gold standard. I'm a gentleman, not some gutter snipe. Upstanding members of society don't prevaricate.
And the smirk, yes. Yeah, Ryu is less smug than Phoenix. There's definitely different vibes from them, but I mean, the the poses that Phoenix pulled in the original game are so iconic, and calling back to them really does hit home the parallels between the two. But is that really the case? Mr. Naruhodo? If we had some evidence to explain why Mr. Fairplay might be lying. Oh, I never actually looked. I just realized I have yet to look at this book. Hang on. First of all... contain all sorts of secrets of London's gentry. Really think we ought to look inside? Absolutely. It's evidence. It's not as though we know any of London's gentry personally, is it? Look, I jumped to examining everything right away, and yet somehow I missed this. The moment the carriage was in the courtroom, I scoured it for all the evidence that I could come up with. Apart from our great detective friend, perhaps. Actually, I wonder. I assure you we will not find Mr. Sholm's name inside. Well, let's see what we find. I kinda hope we find Mr. Sholm's name, just because that would be hilarious. This is a very schnazzy ledger, though. It's crammed full of gentlemen's names, isn't it? Probably not all gentlemen at all, are they? Not everyone in this country is well off. Ah, goodness. What is it? Look at this. Do you see the name here? Bruce Fairplay. Should that mean something to me? It does sound strangely familiar, actually. Bruce Fairplay, the witness, testifying at this very moment. Oh yes, of course, the banker. Why is his name in here? Ah, he borrowed 20 guineas, did he? And look, the repayment date is fast approaching. It's possible this is just a coincidence, of course, but this could be very useful information. Alright, well, now we got our evidence. Anyway. I have evidence. My lord.
Yes, counsel?
The defense is ready to present evidence.
By Jove, are you sure?
Yes, evidence that will clearly demonstrate why Mr. Fairplay had a reason to lie in his testimony. Yeah, no, the sprites are great. I am kind of just waiting for Van Zeeks to do Edgeworth's classic. His little shrug thing that I can't imitate because I don't have Edgeworth's level of swagger. Very well.
I hereby call on the defense to present its evidence. The evidence that demonstrates a motive for the witness's alleged deception of the court.
Take that!
This is a list of the debtors who owe money to Mr. McGilded.
Yes, a list of all the innocent victims crippled by the accused extortion.
The point is, among the names of these debtors is your name, Mr. Bruce Fairplay.
Ah, what? Mr. Fairplay, are you currently indebted financially to the accused?
Ah, no, well... no, well, it's barely worth being called a debt. According to this ledger, you owe 20 guineas, not an inconsiderable sum of money, wouldn't you say? The tut with the little finger wag, that too. That one's pretty frickin' iconic. Though I don't really think we need someone to show up in this courtroom with a whip. Well, what of it? Let's suppose Mr. McGilded were to be found guilty of murder. What would become of your debt in that case?
These documents state that the loan agreement forged between two individual parties. Therefore, were the creditor, the defendant here, to be sentenced to capital punishment, all outstanding debts which were owed to him would be annulled. They would cease to exist. Cease to exist. Mr. Fairplay, is it not the case that you claimed in your testimony to have seen something you never in fact saw in a devious attempt to annul your debt of 20 guineas to the defendant? Not enough spirit channeling? I mean, he's literally carrying Kazuma's soul on his hip. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. Seriously, though, he is going to destroy his teeth on that stick. Order, 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 Mr. Bruce Fairplay. Yes, my lord. Let me ask you again, and be aware that your answer may have most serious implications upon your future, sir. Did you or did you not see the precise moment in time at which the defendant is alleged to have thrust a knife into the victim? Your silence speaks volumes. You did not tell the truth in your testimony. Alright, now let's not make a melodrama out of this. Perhaps I did overstate the truth a pinch. A pinch? But it makes no difference. I definitely remember seeing blood on Mr. McGilded's hands, both of them.
Objection!
And yet, only one of the defendant's gloves, which we have here as evidence, is stained. So you keep saying. I wonder if I might be allowed to speak, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. First. Well, the thing is, I think I remember seeing it myself as it happens. Seeing what? The blood, sir, on the assailant's hands. I think, yes. I'm almost sure that it was on both of his hands, not just one. What? What? Teeth are definitely going to be weak from Victorian dieting, and the cane chomping will make it worse, yeah. It would appear that we're going to need further testimony from all you witnesses. This time, I would like to know precisely what you did and what you did not see. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Yes. Mr. Naruhodo, this is good news. The course of the trial seems to have shifted slightly at last. Yes. I might finally have a chance to turn things around here. I think this is a good time to call it for the day. So we've been going for close to 3 hours now, probably just about 3 hours. And if we get started with this, it's going to keep going for another 2 or more. I think this is probably where we want to call this... Oh, I did not mean to exit the game fully. Hang on. I'll pull it back up so that we have something to look at and we're not just staring at a black screen for the outro. I think I hit exit game instead of return to title. But anyway, this is warming up to be a pretty interesting case. I have a guess as to what's going to happen. But we'll have to see. We will be back tomorrow. I don't think I've got anything going on, so it should be starting around the usual time, 2:30-ish. And if we're lucky, we'll make some good strides in the case. My guess as to what happened is that someone was hiding
under the... Ooh, spicy ramen. Please share. Share with the rest of chat, always. My guess is that someone was hiding under the chair. Except I'm not really sure that would work. Based on where the people were. Anyway, the point is, the dude was found on the... Oh, wait, yes. Someone was hiding under the chair. The two gentlemen were sitting on the one side. Both of them had fallen asleep. The person got out of their chair, stuck a knife in the dude. Oh, I think I put it together, actually. The two gentlemen... Well, no. Anyway, someone got out from under the chair, stuck a knife in the dude, and hid back under the chair in the commotion. Because there was that whole compartment under the chair. Like, that's the simple version. I'm guessing that the person was hiding in there with a plan to murder the defendant, because they were in debt to him, most likely. But anyway, we'll see. We'll have to wait until tomorrow, and depending on whether we finish up the course, the case tomorrow, who knows? I was fully convinced that Nicolino wasn't actually going to be guilty in the last case, but she was, so we're just gonna have to take this a bit at a time. These cases Ace Attorney trials get pretty unhinged and convoluted, so regardless, I do appreciate y'all. Thanks everyone for being here and chatting and lurking as you felt best. I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Later, folks. Bye.